All right, so last week I made this really fun Dresden Plate quilt. I was inspired by a junk journal page to put this quilt together. I added doilies onto it and just had a lot of fun bringing it together. This video completing this quilt is already posted on my YouTube channel, so if you missed it, I'll link to it in the description below. I will refer you to some of the aspects of bringing this quilt together, and I'll try to link directly to where that part of the tutorial starts so that it's really easy for you to find it if needed. Because I had so much fun with this quilt, I decided that I wanted to make accent pillows that kind of match the style. So I'm going to walk you through doing that today. So what you will need for the accent pillow project that looks like this quilt here will be a lot of the same supplies here, just on a smaller scale. For one pillow, I'm going to put one Dresden plate on it. So you'll need 20 of these petals cut. So for me, I'm just going to be using the scraps that were left over from cutting the petals here. So just a lot of the same prints, just not an equal matching amount. So I'm going to have 20 of these petals, and then I'm just going to sew them just as I did in this video. I cut my petals using this easy Dresden template, and I cut them at the largest size, so the 8-inch marking that you see here. Once they are assembled and have this point here, you'll just sew them together along this longer edge. It's pretty easy to bring them together, but I will link to creating the petals in the description of this video. So even though my plate is going to be covered with a little doily again, I still am creating the center circle for the Dresden plates just to hide all the raw edges of the petals a little better than just the doily will do. So this time around, I decided to purchase my doilies in a different way. In the video here, I have a bunch of different types of doilies because I purchased them at an antique shop in town. This time I decided to look on Amazon and see what might work from there. I thought of this because then I could link to where to purchase them and just make it easy for you if you wanted to recreate a quilt like this. I was surprised at how many different doily options were available. And one thing that is nice about purchasing them is that these came completely flat, so I think they'll be a little easier to work with. Plus, in the video here, I had so many good suggestions given to me in the comments on working with doilies, one of them being to starch them heavily first. So I'm going to try that and see if it keeps them from shifting around a little bit. But if you are looking for suggestions that might help you on recreating this quilt, I strongly urge you to go look at the comments in this video. They were so helpful. All right, so something else we will need for creating this pillow is the background of the pillow. I'm using the same background fabric that was on the quilt here, and I cut it to 18.5 inches by 18.5 inches, just like I did in this quilt. Now, if you don't want to add in some newsprint like I'm going to do, just cut it a little bit bigger, cut it to the size that you want your pillow to be. And after mentioning that, I do want to point out that you could always make your Dresden plates smaller too if you want a smaller size pillow. So mine is cut to 18.5 by 18.5 inches. And then let me show you what size newsprint strips we're going to be adding in. So the first print that I'm adding in is 3 inches by 18.5 inches. And I'm going to add this one in first, sew it in place, and then cut in the other direction and add a strip in that is 2.5 inches by 20.5 inches. So that'll bring the size of the square up a bit. So I'm going to add those slits in, and you could add them in at any place you wanted in the square to get the look that you want. I added my first strip in about 4 inches away from the edge, and then I sewed in the wider strip. And then after pressing everything, I went in the other direction and went about 3 inches in and added the strip in. So after sewing it in place and pressing it really well, here is how my square turned out. And I really love how it kind of mimics the design here and will look really great next to it if I decide to put these accent pillows in the quilt on our couch. So after getting this base in place and sewing all my petals together, I can start laying it out on here and get a layout that I really like for my pillow. Now for me, I really like pillows to have an envelope back, so that is the style I'm going to show in this video, but there are a bunch of different ways that you could put your pillow together. You could have just a solid back and close it up completely, or you could add a zipper on so you could remove your pillow form as well instead of having an envelope backing. It is really up to you and the look that you like with your pillows. All right, so I have the background square finished and trimmed to a 20-inch square. And so now I'm going to grab my finished Dresden plate. I have it all scrappy, like I said. I laid it out first and got a layout that I really liked and then sewed it all together. So if I wanted to center this, what I would do is fold my background in half and kind of finger press, and then you could fold it again and press again. You could press with the iron as well to get it to show up a little better, but you'll have that crease there so you can line up your Dresden right in the middle. I would just eyeball it, but you could use lines of the Dresden to get it centered. Then I have my center circle there that I could put in the middle, applique it in place. Some other things you could do though that you could think about is maybe setting it off to the side. This covers up all that fun here, so maybe I would set it off to the other side. And of course, this will get trimmed off, the part that overhangs, but it would give you a completely new look to the layout and maybe be a little fun. So you still have those doilies you could add. I sprayed mine with starch and I'm going to press them and see if that helps them get a little stiffer. So I'm just going to add some heat to these. I did read that they are cotton thread, so adding the heat should be fine on them. It was fine on my other ones. It's definitely getting them even flatter, which will be helpful when sewing them in place either way. All right, so I do really like the feel of these with the spray start. So you could set one in the center, and since I purchased a few, you could put some on the outside here and just get some a fun look to this quilt. You could tuck some behind, have it just peeking out. There's a lot of different things you could do to get a different feel on this pillow and on the quilt if you make this larger. So I think for this one, I'm going to just center it like I had planned, but I wanted to give you some different ideas on that. So I'm going to get this in place and I'll applique around the edge. Just stitch 1/8 of an inch around the edge and stitch this in place. I'm going to use my applique glue again to hold this in place. And then afterward, I will put the doily on and just stitch around it as well. Then I will show you how I'm going to bring this whole pillow together. All right, so now that the front of the pillow is sewn in place and everything is sewn down, it is time to work on the back of the pillow to bring it all together. Now, if you wanted to, you could put some batting or something light on the back of it and do some quilting to get that quilted design. I'm just going to leave it as is. There's not too many seams that could unravel, so I'm not really worried about it, but if you are, you could go ahead and do that. All right, so the other pieces that you'll need are going to be the two pieces to make the back of the envelope quilt. I have one here, and this one measures 20.5 inches by 15 inches. Now, you can make these any size that you want as long as they overlap in the middle of the back of the pillow. So I have this first piece here that is 15 by 20.5, and then I cut another piece that is 13 by 20.5. This is a little wider than the pillow front, but I like to do that just to make sure everything lines up, and then I'll trim it down later. Now, to keep the back of the opening for the envelope, backing of the pillow form, I fold over the edge that's going to be at that opening twice to hide the raw edges. Now, to do that, I like to fold mine a half an inch down. And so I have this pressing ruler that makes that really easy. So I fold it down once and press all the way across. So I just move this around to the other side and fold it. And then I fold it in again to hide that raw edge. And then I put my 1/8 inch presser foot on my machine and I sew along each of these edges. I like to sew from the back so that I can make sure it's nice and straight, but you could sew from the front side if that's easier for you. But I like to sew along each edge. So here are how both of those pieces look when they are finished, and they'll overlap in the middle of the pillow so that you can open it up and put the pillow form in. Now, what I'm going to do is turn these where the wrong side is up, and I'm going to get them to where they're lined up at 20.5 inches on my mat so that it's nice and centered. So you can see I have the wrong sides up and the finished edges are in the middle. So I don't have them turned out to the edge or anything like that. And then I'm going to just lay my finished pillow front on here and line it up as well. So you can see how the edges come over a little bit. That was by design so that I make sure I don't have any openings all the way around. So you can see these are going to be raw edges on the edge. And that's because my plan is to put a binding around it when it is finished. That's why I have wrong sides together here. All right, so now I'm going to grab my clips and clip this in place. I'm going to clip all the way around so it stays nice and lined up. And then I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch from the edge all the way around. Now, as you sew all the way around, something to keep note of is that this opening might like to catch on your sewing machine. So keep that in mind when you go around and make sure that you're careful that this isn't pulling open or it can kind of mess up your sewing. So I'm going to sew 1/8 of an inch all the way around the outside of this pillow. And then I'm going to trim all of the excess off around the edge. Then I'll be able to add my binding on. So I'm just going to sew the binding on like I traditionally would. You could sew it on however you like to attach binding to a project. I think I'm going to make 2 pillow forms as well. Let me know how many you plan to make. I think this would make a great gift. And I think it would also make a cute little table topper as well. You could add a few borders around it if you need to make it larger. Let me know what you think. All right, my finished pillow is all done. I'm so excited to have this accent pillow on my couch with the other Dresden quilt I made. I love the doilies on it, and these from Amazon were so easy to sew on, and starching them made it come out a lot nicer as well. My machine is only a straight stitch machine, so if you have a machine that has different stitch designs on it, it would probably be really fun to go around the outside of the doily with another stitch design just to add some more fun to it. But the stitches do kind of blend in a lot either way. All right, let me know if you make one of these quilts, add doilies to a quilt. I would love to see what you think of that method. I think it is so much fun and I see a lot more of these in my future. I absolutely love adding different things onto quilts. If you watch one of my binding videos a few months ago, I added lace along the binding and I loved that look too. Definitely going to be thinking about what else I could add onto my quilts to add some fun and interest to them. All right, thanks so much for watching and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.